Thanks for joining us for this week's Health News You Can Use. I'm Lindsay Stish. The need for foster families and support for children who need these services has increased during the pandemic. I'm here today with Jeanette Coster, Director of Foster Care and Adoption at St. Luke's Crittenton Children's Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The nation's foster care system has been overwhelmed by the pandemic. More kids are entering the foster care system, and there are fewer families to take them in, putting already vulnerable kids at an even greater risk. Today, we're talking about what you need to know about foster care and being a foster parent or family. Jeanette, how has foster care been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
There's been a big effect, especially with the fact that parents and children aren't able to visit in person. When the pandemic occurred, a lot of public places that parents did visits at all closed. And as a foster care system, we really had to be flexible and make changes, especially with technology, to make sure that parents could stay connected with their kids virtually during that time, which was a challenge, as a lot of biological parents and even foster parents don't have the technology that's available to you and I.
Tell me about the current need for foster families.
There's a great need for foster families, and that really hasn't changed even though the pandemic's going on. A lot of foster parents were scared, as we all were during that time. They may have their own medical issues, underlying issues. They may have medically fragile children, and a lot of that caused them not to want to take placements during the pandemic. And that obviously affected the stability of children. And in addition, when we have kids that come in during the pandemic where it's a sibling group of 2 or 3, finding a foster home that had the capability and ability and willingness to take a sibling group during that time, and not knowing necessarily what the children had been exposed to during COVID was very challenging.
Now, I understand hotline calls to the Department of Child Services have been down 50% because of the pandemic and school not being in person. Now that schools are going back in person, is foster care seeing an influx of children who need to be placed into a home?
We're definitely seeing an influx in hotline calls are increasing, which is a good thing. That means that there's eyes on kids again. When the pandemic started and kids were learning remotely, that really took out the ability of teachers to see warning signs or for a child to be able to let a teacher know something was going on. So that isolation really caused hotlines to decrease, but it didn't cause kids to stop coming into care. So I think that's been the biggest thing, is just really having that eyes-on approach again has extremely increased the number of hotlines that we're getting.
So if someone's been thinking about it or is interested, what's the process to become a foster parent or family?
The process is essentially they can make a phone call to us, or they can go on the website and fill out an inquiry form with their first name and maybe a phone number. And we will reach out to them and talk to them about whether it's the right step for them, or maybe just answer additional questions they have about what being a foster parent is all about, and kind of go from there.
And what criteria needs to be met?
Really, anybody that has a home that has space for a child can be a foster parent. You need to be at least 21 years of age, but you don't have to own your own home. You can rent. It can be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, it can be an apartment, and you can be married or single or divorced. Really, if you have that commitment and that desire in your heart, and you can pass our background checks and go through the training that's required, you can become a foster parent.
Now, can you explain what are the 3 S's and why are those so important?
Yes. When kids come into care, it's already a traumatic experience, depending on what brought them there. And the first thing that they need to feel safe, regardless of where they're at. That's the most important thing. Stability is also very important, leading to the need for more foster homes. When kids are coming into care and there's not a foster home available, they may have to go to a shelter, which does a great job taking care of them and is very appropriate. It's not a family-like setting. And then they have to move again when we finally find a foster home, which creates a lot of instability. And lastly, support. It takes a village to raise a child, and there needs to be a multitude of people around to provide support for their mental health, for their education, for their health and wellness, and all of those aspects.
What would you say to someone who's been thinking about becoming a foster parent but is still unsure?
I would say that they should reach out and ask those questions because just making that call could mean the difference of a child having a family or not having a family. When kids come into care, if they're not able to return to their biological parent, they have always said, I just want a family of my own. And your thought to be a foster parent could be what they need. You could make the difference to that child and finally having a forever safe, stable home.
Well, thank you so much again, Jeanette, for raising awareness for this today.
Thank you.
If you'd like to find out more about foster care and foster to adopt, including how to become a foster family, go to stlukeskc.org/foster. You can also stay up to date with all the latest developments on the COVID-19 pandemic and other health news from St. Luke's at stlukeskc.org/news. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Health News You Can Use.